How many times have you heard someone say, maybe I should cut back on coffee? Or, I know it's probably not great for me, but I need it. Most of us have heard this so often that it feels like common knowledge. Caffeine is something we enjoy, but don't fully trust. It's something we rely on in the morning, hesitate about in the afternoon, and quietly question by the evening. And what's interesting is that most of us never actually decided to think this way. We inherited the idea from headlines, from conversations, from warnings repeated so many times they started to sound like facts. I believed it too. For a long time, I assumed caffeine was something you tolerate, not something you understand. Until I did something surprisingly simple. I asked, what does the science actually say? And what I found challenged not just how I think about coffee, but how easily we accept health myths when they sound familiar enough. Let's start with a fact that usually surprises people. Most adults consume less than 300 milligrams of caffeine per day. That's well within what science considers a safe range. Yet many of the scariest claims about caffeine, bone loss, severe health risks, long-term damage, are based on amounts over 700 milligrams per day. That's not 1 or 2 cups of coffee. That's 8 or more. So the first myth already begins to crack. Myth 1. Caffeine weakens your bones. This concern comes up often, especially around calcium and magnesium loss. But here's the nuance. At typical consumption levels, caffeine does not meaningfully increase bone fragility. Large-scale studies show that potential risks only appear at extremely high intake levels, far beyond what most people drink. In reality, the biggest factors affecting bone health aren't caffeine. They're nutrition, chronic illness, physical activity, and genetics. Your coffee isn't shrinking you. Myth 2. Caffeine has no health benefits. This one couldn't be more wrong. Coffee and tea are among the largest sources of antioxidants in modern diets. Research has associated moderate caffeine intake with reduced risk of colon, breast, and head and neck cancers, lower rates of chronic liver disease, decreased inflammatory markers. In some studies, 3 cups of coffee per day were linked to a lower risk of stroke. Tea showed similar benefits, reducing stroke risk by nearly 20%. Even dark chocolate joins the conversation. Caffeine isn't just a stimulant. It's a biologically active compound interacting with inflammation, blood vessels, and brain chemistry. Myth 3. Caffeine replaces sleep. This is where things get interesting. Caffeine doesn't give you energy. It borrows alertness. Your brain naturally produces a molecule called adenosine. Adenosine builds up throughout the day and gently tells your brain, it's time to rest. Caffeine blocks that signal, so you feel awake, but the pressure to sleep hasn't disappeared. And when caffeine wears off, adenosine is still waiting. That's why neglecting sleep and relying on caffeine leads to reduced REM sleep shorter, total sleep duration, long-term disruption of sleep rhythms. No substance replaces restorative sleep, and caffeine was never meant to. Myth 4. Decaf means caffeine-free. This is one of my favorites. Decaf doesn't mean zero, it means reduced. Regulations typically require about 95% of caffeine removed, not 100%. That means a cup of decaf may still contain 10 to 15 milligrams of caffeine. Compared to 80 to 150 milligrams in regular coffee, that's low, but not nothing. For people with acid reflux or sensitivity, this reduction often helps, but the myth of caffeine-free simply isn't accurate. Myth 5. Coffee stunts growth. Let's be clear. Caffeine does not interfere with growth once bone development is complete. Teenagers typically consume under 80 milligrams per day, far below any threshold linked to mineral loss. Growth is influenced by genetics, overall health, nutrition. Not your latte. Myth 6. Soda has less caffeine than coffee. Sometimes not. A can of cola averages 40 milligrams. A shot of espresso? Around 27 milligrams. Meanwhile, black tea, approximately 45 milligrams. Instant coffee, approximately 80 milligrams. Brewed coffee, approximately 95 milligrams. labels matter. Assumptions don't. Myth 7. Caffeine detoxifies your body. This one is dangerous. Your body already has a detox system. It's called your liver, kidneys, and intestines. Caffeine does not cleanse toxins, and extreme practices, like caffeine enemas, have caused serious colon injuries, burns, and even organ perforation. If there is one universal detox agent, it's simple: water. Hydration supports the systems that already do the work. Myth 8. Caffeine dehydrates you. Caffeine is a mild diuretic, but context matters. At around 300 milligrams, urine output may increase by about 4 ounces. That's negligible when the beverage itself contains water. Thirst after caffeine often comes from sugar or additives, not caffeine itself. Myth 9. Caffeine is addictive. Caffeine can create dependence, but it doesn't meet criteria for addiction. Stopping suddenly may cause headaches, fatigue, or irritability for a few days. Then the body recalibrates. There's no dangerous withdrawal, no escalating harm cycle. Myth 10. More than 1 cup a day is bad. For most adults, up to 400 milligrams per day is considered safe. That's multiple standard cups. Exceptions exist: pregnancy, certain heart conditions, specific gastrointestinal issues, which is why personalized medical advice matters. Myth 11. You can't sleep if you drink caffeine at night. Some people can. Some people can't. Caffeine's half-life is about 5 hours, but metabolism varies, often due to genetics. The key takeaway: there is no universal rule. Myth 12. Caffeine harms your heart. Studies found no increased risk of arrhythmias from moderate caffeine intake. Temporary palpitations can happen. They're usually harmless and fade with regular use. Myth 13. Tea is healthier than coffee. Neither wins by default. Both provide antioxidants. Both vary widely by preparation, additives, and type. The healthiest choice isn't tea or coffee. It's how you consume them. Myth 14. Brewing method doesn't matter. It absolutely does. Grind size, water temperature, brew time, dilution all affect caffeine content. A coffee pod can contain more caffeine than a French press. Details matter. Myth 15. Caffeine causes chronic anxiety. Caffeine can increase alertness. It can raise heart rate slightly. It can sharpen focus. But chronic anxiety is not caused by caffeine alone. Research shows that caffeine may exacerbate anxiety in people who already have anxiety disorders, but it does not create anxiety in otherwise healthy individuals. Long-term anxiety is influenced by stress exposure, sleep quality, hormonal balance, nervous system regulation. In fact, low to moderate caffeine intake has been associated with improved mood and reduced depression risk in several population studies. Blaming caffeine for chronic anxiety often distracts from the real drivers: overstimulation, sleep deprivation, and sustained stress. Caffeine amplifies what's already there. It doesn't invent it. So what did we really learn? Caffeine isn't a villain. It isn't a miracle. It's a tool. Used thoughtfully, it offers benefits with minimal risk. And maybe the biggest myth of all is that something widely enjoyed must secretly be harming us. Sometimes science delivers good news, and sometimes that good news comes in a cup